What if I told you that the secret to peace, confidence, and clarity is caring less, not in a cold, detached, I don't give a damn kind of way, but in the liberating realization that most of what you stress over doesn't deserve space in your mind. Montaigne, a philosopher centuries ahead of his time, didn't live to impress, he lived to understand. And when he stopped caring about approval, everything started to align. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? In a world that rewards hustle, applause, and endless self-curation, we're told to care more, prove more, control everything. But that's the trap. The more you cling, the more you suffer. And Montaigne, he figured out that freedom isn't found in managing life like a spreadsheet. It's found in surrender, detachment, and ruthless honesty. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of what you're trying to control is controlling you. The obsession with validation, the fear of judgment, the need to predict what's unpredictable. It all becomes a prison. But what if, starting today, you stopped begging for approval and started reclaiming your essence? The version of you that's been buried beneath expectations. You're about to see how Montaigne's quiet rebellion against control, fear, and social masks can radically shift how you live. This isn't a feel-good pep talk. It's a wake-up call, one that invites you to let go, tune in, and finally breathe. Because when you stop caring about the wrong things, the right things begin to unfold on their own. Have you ever caught yourself rehearsing what to say before entering a room? Not because you want clarity, but because you want approval. That subtle shift from authenticity to performance is where dispersonalization begins. We start changing our tone, our preferences, even the way we laugh, all to blend in. Michel de Montaigne knew this game far too well. He saw that every time we silence our inner voice for applause, we trade a piece of who we are for a spotlight that doesn't warm. There's a high price for living as a mirror to other people's expectations. Over time, you forget what your favorite color is, what you actually believe in. That's the curse of dispersonalization. You're everywhere but nowhere. And it usually starts innocently, a compliment here, a nod there, until the need for approval becomes oxygen. But here's a brutal truth Montaigne hinted at. Even if you win everyone's admiration, it never fills the void of not admiring yourself. And that's when the real trouble starts. Because when you shapeshift constantly, people love a version of you that doesn't really exist. You get applause for the costume, not for the soul underneath. So you feel lonelier, even when surrounded. And what Montaigne realized is that the longer you play this game, the harder it gets to find your way back. But what if the first step is simply noticing, really noticing how often you adjust yourself to fit in? That's when something deeper begins to unravel. Montaigne lived in chaotic times, civil wars, disease, instability everywhere. And yet, he discovered something surprising. The more we try to control everything, the less control we actually have. It sounds contradictory, but it's true. Humans believe that predictability brings safety. But in reality, this obsession with control only breeds anxiety and frustration. Think about the times you planned every detail of your week, and still, something went off script. It's inevitable. Life has its own twists and turns, and the more rigid you are, the more painful the collision with the unexpected will be. Montaigne understood this by observing the world around him and, more importantly, by looking within. Control, in truth, is a comfortable illusion, nothing more. Letting go of control isn't the same as being passive. On the contrary, it's an act of courage. It's saying, I'll do my best, but I know not everything is up to me. That's not giving up, it's trust. It's liberating to realize we don't need to know everything all the time. When we accept the flow of life, we gain lightness, mental clarity, and a genuine confidence that doesn't depend on certainties. And the most curious part is that often, the best things that happen to us are exactly the ones we didn't plan. Unexpected relationships, opportunities that come out of nowhere, last-minute decisions. That's the paradox of control. When you let go, life finally flows. And that's what prepares us to face the next invisible enemy blocking our inner freedom. Fear is heavy, not just emotionally, but physically too. Montaigne faced a near-death accident that cracked open his understanding of it. Most of the things we fear never actually happen, yet we carry them like backpacks filled with rocks. We replay future disasters in our minds as if worry itself could prevent them. But worry doesn't protect, it paralyzes. It keeps us frozen in imagined futures while the present passes us by. Think of how many nights you've lost sleep over what-ifs that never became reality. Montaigne realized this after experiencing the silence of almost dying. He wasn't afraid in that moment, he was clear. Fear was never in the body. It lived in the stories his mind told afterward. So what happens if we stop clinging to those mental scripts? What if we let go of the obsession with knowing every outcome? When we release the weight of fear, we create space for trust, not blind optimism, but deep presence. Instead of rehearsing worst-case scenarios, we start living best-case possibilities. It's not about ignoring risk. It's about not letting it dominate. And here's where it gets interesting. People who seem most in control are often the ones most terrified of losing it. That tension eats away at their health, relationships, and clarity. Montaigne invites us to flip the script, to question the purpose behind our fears. Because when fear runs the show, it becomes a prison. But when observed with honesty, can become a compass, gently pointing toward the next lesson we need to face. The obsession with control rarely screams, it whispers. It shows up when we double-check messages, overanalyze conversations, or rehearse life before it happens. Montaigne invites us to do something radical. Observe it, not to shame it, not to fight it, but to see it clearly, like watching a wild animal in its habitat. That quiet awareness is where freedom begins. When we cling to control, we burn through vital energy, mental, emotional, even physical. Trying to manage every outcome is like trying to control the weather, exhausting and impossible. Montaigne believed life wasn't a machine to be programmed, but a living organism, unpredictable, messy, full of surprise. And the more we resist that nature, the more we suffer. So what if, instead, we welcomed it? Releasing control doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop obsessing. You still lock your door at night, but you stop checking it 10 times. You still prepare for the interview, but you stop replaying it afterward for days. It's in these small shifts that the obsession loses its grip. We don't need to fight it, we just need to stop feeding it. One powerful practice: journaling. The moments you tried to control something unnecessary. Then, gently ask, what was I afraid of? Over time, this awareness builds self-trust, and from trust, a truer kind of power emerges. Because once you learn to let go, even just a little, you're no longer a puppet of fear. And that opens the door to a deeper truth that most people spend a lifetime avoiding, since childhood. We're taught to chase gold stars, the pat on the back, the nod of approval, the applause. It feels good, right? But here's the trap. When your self-worth is based on someone else's approval, you become a hostage. Montaigne warned about this addiction long before social media existed. The more we chase validation, the more we abandon our truth. At first, it's subtle. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You dress a certain way to fit in. You hide parts of yourself just to be liked. And before long, you're not being loved. Your mask is. That's the paradox. The more validation you receive, the more hollow it feels. Because deep down, you know it's not really you being seen. External validation never truly satisfies, because it's never directed at your authentic self. It's like pouring water into a cup with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much praise you collect, it slips right through. Montaigne believed that real confidence begins when we stop trying to be someone and start embracing who we already are, flaws and all. A practical exercise. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I do or say anything just to be liked? Write it down. Then ask, what would I have done if I wasn't afraid of judgment? Over time, you start peeling off the layers that don't belong to you. This is the beginning of reclaiming your identity. Not one shaped by applause, but by integrity. And once that shift begins, a strange peace starts to appear. You stop looking outward for permission to be yourself. You start honoring your own voice. And slowly, the addiction to approval fades, making space for something far more powerful to take root. People often confuse detachment with apathy, but Montaigne saw it differently. True detachment isn't about not caring, it's about caring without clinging. It's the ability to act with love, show up fully, and still let things unfold, without trying to force an outcome. This level of clarity comes from wisdom, not coldness. It's knowing what deserves your energy, and what doesn't. Single quotes T. Imagine tending to a garden. You water, you nurture, but you don't scream at the plants. To grow faster, that's detachment. You do your part, then surrender the rest. Montaigne believed that life requires the same grace. When we stop obsessing over results and start focusing on the quality of our presence, we move from control to connection. Many people burn out, not from doing too much, but from holding on too tightly. They cling to outcomes, relationships, even identities that no longer serve them. True detachment invites us to release that grip, not out of indifference, but from a place of deeper trust. When we stop demanding guarantees, we start discovering peace in uncertainty. One powerful practice: choose one area of your life, work, relationships, health, and ask, what am I trying to control that isn't mine to control? Then, for a week, practice showing up without obsessing over the result. Journal your observations. This kind of experimentation builds emotional resilience and slowly rewires your attachment to control. And the beautiful irony: the moment you stop clutching so tightly, things begin to align. Not because you forced them, but because you finally gave them room to breathe. And from that space, another truth quietly begins to reveal itself. One rooted not in logic, but in self-knowledge. Montaigne didn't chase perfection. Instead, he turned inward, not to fix himself, but to understand himself. He explored his fears, his vanities, even his contradictions, and by doing so, became more human, not less. That's the power of self-knowledge. It doesn't demand that you be flawless, only that you be honest. And in that honesty, something rare happens. Self-respect. Most people think growth means becoming someone better. Montaigne flipped that. He believed growth is remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And it starts with accepting the parts you usually hide. Your impatience, your doubts, your odd little quirks. Self-acceptance isn't weakness, it's strength dressed in humility. Ever notice how exhausting it is to pretend you're always okay? That constant pressure to appear strong, focused, unshakable. Montaigne teaches that the real power lies in vulnerability. When you admit you don't have it all figured out, people don't lose respect, they relate. That kind of rawness connects, liberates, and inspires others to do the same. Try this. Write down 3 things you're currently judging yourself for. Then next to each, write what a kind friend would say about it. This simple shift trains your inner voice to speak with compassion, because once you become a safe place for yourself, you stop needing the world to validate your worth. That's when true confidence takes root, and what grows from that soil is something deeper than surface-level success. It's the quiet joy of being at peace with your flaws. It's the ability to show up as you are, no mask, no filter. And once you taste that freedom, your relationships begin to change in ways you never expected. Relationships can feel like a battlefield, not because of love, but because of control. Montaigne observed that most suffering between people stems from trying to own the other. We disguise it as care, but underneath lies the desire to shape, fix, or secure someone else's behavior. That's not love, that's possession. And where there is possession, freedom withers. True connection thrives on space, not suffocation. Imagine giving someone the freedom to be fully themselves without making it mean rejection. That's what Montaigne proposed. Love without a leash. Friendship, romance, even family. All of it becomes richer when we trade control for presence. Because when we stop trying to change people, we start actually seeing them. This kind of bond isn't fragile, it's fierce. It's built on respect, not manipulation. Think about your strongest relationships. Chances are, they're the ones where you can exhale, mess up, speak your truth without fear. That's the paradox. The more freedom you give, the deeper the intimacy becomes. Possessiveness is fear in disguise. Real love is bold enough to let go. Want a powerful exercise? Ask someone close to you, do you feel free around me? Don't defend, just listen. Then reflect. Where am I using expectations as a form of control? Montaigne would say that the moment you spot that pattern and release it, the relationship shifts. It becomes a partnership, not a project. And from that release, a different kind of peace emerges. One that doesn't cling or demand, but trusts. That's when love becomes a sanctuary, not a negotiation. And when you learn to love like that, you're finally ready to experience what true surrender really feels like. Surrender sounds like giving up, but Montaigne saw it as the highest form of wisdom. It's not about quitting, it's about realigning. Instead of wrestling with life's uncertainty, surrender says, I'm done trying to control what was never mine. That shift doesn't make you weak, it makes you light. You stop dragging the weight of outcomes and start walking with clarity. There's a quiet strength in surrender. It's what allows you to face chaos without crumbling. Montaigne believed that real courage is born not from domination, but from harmony, from knowing what you can shape and what you must release. And when you live that way, you're not passive, you're precise. You act from truth, not from panic. We've all seen people cling to plans, relationships, identities long past. Their time, it drains the soul. But those who surrender, not out of defeat, but wisdom, they move differently. They're fluid, grounded, alive. Because surrender doesn't shrink you, it sharpens you. You stop reacting to life and start collaborating with it. Try this. The next time something doesn't go your way, instead of asking why me, ask what now. That small shift is powerful. It moves you from resistance to readiness, from frustration to flow. Montaigne's surrender wasn't about silence, it was about spaciousness, a conscious decision to meet life with openness, not obsession. And once you begin living from that space, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you no longer need it to be. You're rooted, clear, and from that clarity, something lasting begins to grow. A legacy, not built from control, but from trust. Montaigne didn't leave behind a rigid doctrine. He left behind a mirror that reflects back one core truth. The obsession with control is the enemy of freedom. Every time we try to force life to fit our script, we shrink. But when we loosen our grip, we create space for the unexpected, and often, for what matters most to flourish. That's the legacy of letting go. Legacy isn't about monuments or followers, it's about impact. It's about whether your presence brought ease or tension. Montaigne's impact wasn't in what he commanded, but in what he released. He released the need to be right, to be perfect, to be invincible. And in doing so, he gave the rest of us permission to do the same. The truth is, your real legacy begins the moment you stop trying to prove and start choosing to live, not perfectly, but authentically. When you detach from the image and reconnect with your essence, your choices ripple. People notice when you're free. They may not say it, but they feel it. That's influence, real, quiet, and unforgettable. Here's something to try. Look at one part of your life where you've been forcing instead of flowing. Now ask, if I trusted more and controlled less, what might blossom here? Write it down, revisit it. Let that question guide you. Montaigne believed wisdom lives in reflection, and reflection, when honest, always invites transformation. And maybe, just maybe, the life you're searching for isn't something you build by force, but something you uncover by letting go. Letting go of fear, letting go of control, letting go of the need to be someone you're not. Because in that space, the real you finally has room to breathe. So now I ask you, how much of your life have you spent trying to control the uncontrollable? How many moments have slipped through your fingers because you were too busy managing, predicting, or performing? Maybe it's time to stop chasing applause that never satisfies, to stop bending yourself into a version that others approve. But you barely recognize Montaigne's wisdom isn't just philosophy, it's a mirror that asks, what would your life look like if you stopped trying so hard? If you stopped clinging, started trusting, and finally allowed your real self to take the lead? You don't need more perfection. You need more permission to be raw, to be real, to be free. So what are you still holding on to? What's one thing you could release today? A fear, an expectation, a mask that would open the door to something better? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's break that illusion of control together. Because your story doesn't have to be scripted by fear. It can be written by truth. End if this hit home. If something in you woke up during this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more waiting for you here. Tools, truths, and quiet revolutions that start within. Because when you stop caring about what doesn't matter, everything that matters finally starts to work.